Hello, and welcome to our first post-game Periscope of the year. I think we're going to be more away game Periscopes, home game Twitter spaces, but here we are, away game that I did not attend, live on Periscope, even though Periscope's not a thing. I'm not changing what I call it. I don't care. We're talking about a game that the Golden Knights were not the better team in. The Golden Knights did not show up to pass the test that was in front of them. They did not have a ton of standout performers across the building. Basically, for the most part, the best players were not the best players on this particular day. Wasn't a good day for Eichel. Wasn't a good day for Stone necessarily. Stevenson, I thought, was better than some of the others. I didn't think that there was a ton out of Carlson and Marchessault. Obviously, Marchessault doesn't get to play in the second period, essentially. Kessel's basically a no-show in that game. Pietrangelo wasn't all that good. Martinez has the own goal and is kind of not in, they lose a net front battle at the end of the game there. Just as a whole, not good enough. Like, there's really not too many ways to put it other than that's just not good enough. Like, they have to be better in those types of games if this is going to be a season where they're going to have the same kind of success we're hoping for as we move forward. Like I said, it's the first test. It's not a pass. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not, it doesn't really change the start of the season. It doesn't really change all that much about what you should or should not be thinking about the team. It's another step in the right direction for the Big Tommy lobby. They get some more weaponry in their corner. And obviously, as time goes on, I'm sure I'll become part of the Big Tommy lobby if this continues. He was fantastic. That game's, he probably saves 3 or 4 above expected in that game. Like, that's big. That keeps them in the game. That gives them the opportunity. They probably should have lost that game by more than they did, but they didn't. So that's certainly a good option. The main concern that sticks out to me above anything else is offensive. Their offense is offensive to me. Let's put it that way. I just don't think that the way that they're generating chances is, I don't want to use the word repeatable because I don't think that's necessarily fair after 4 games, but it doesn't feel to me like we're seeing a different plan or a different idea or a different way that they actually want to attack through this. So because of that, it's disappointing to me that we are 4 games into the season. We're playing against different styles of teams. We're playing against, in different buildings. And these games have been many different states of where we're at, whether it's 4-0 or 1-0 or, a back and forth one. Today, they have the lead and give it up. I just feel like for the most part, when the puck gets in the offensive zone, the Golden Knights aren't creating chances left and right like better teams are going to do against them, like Calgary did today. Defensively, it wasn't great today. I don't think anyone should have expected it to be great today. It's not the end of the world. Again, they were very good through 3 games. They weren't all that good today. It's the first time they really had an opportunity to see how some of this was going to come together. I thought, for me, you're seeing kind of the issues and how the lines are set up, that it's really hard to get any consistency as you go through this lineup because of the fact that each one of the lines has a bit of a weak spot. And today, oddly enough, Brett Howden was not the weak spot on that line. It's hard to get going in the right direction and have these opportunities where you're getting offensive zone shift over and over and over again when you have situations where I'm not sure that any of the lines are actually dominant and any of the lines are actually all that good defensively. Like, I don't feel comfortable necessarily in any situation with any of them. Really, the only line you could feel all that comfortable with is the 4th line. And basically, the reason we feel so comfortable with the 4th line is because the expectations are so low. They get the goal today. It's a complete and utter fluke. Like, it should never happen. And does that game feel any different if it's 3-1? I would maybe argue yes. So to me, you probably are going to see some changes coming up. I'm interested to see what it looks against a poor defensive team in Winnipeg. I'm interested to see what it looks against maybe the best team in the league still in Colorado. What is it going to look like against Toronto, who can be a mixed bag a little bit at different times. And then there's different goalie situations coming up that they probably faced one of the better ones today. And after the flub, he looked it. Like, he did what he needed to do. I don't think they generated enough dangerous chances. He certainly was the worst of the two goalies in the game. Thompson was absolutely better than Markstrom in this game. So we'll see what happens there. This comment, thoughts on the refs, seem biased. I'll just disagree. I didn't particularly love the call on White Cloud. I thought it probably could have been both of them. I mean, he does punch him in the face, so I don't know what else you want there. The trip for me is a trip, like skate on skate, and he pushes this guy's skate into the boards. I maybe Toffoli makes a meal of it. Okay. The Carrier one's a no-brainer. The Carlson one's a no-brainer. The trips are, I think it was McNabb had one. It's a no-brainer. Like, for me as a whole, I don't know what you really want to do. And when the Golden Knights broadcast is out here saying most of them are legitimate, they're probably pretty darn close to legitimate. The Golden Knights got their calls back. They had opportunities. They had 4 chances to score on the power play. I didn't think it was terrible in zone earlier. The earlier ones weren't as good in zone, and it was kind of like the early ones were bad on in zone and were good on entry, and then the late ones were bad in zone or bad on entry and good in zone. You know what I'm trying to say there. They just didn't put it all together. They were never given that rush chance opportunity to actually score on. It just wasn't a very good game for the power play. I didn't think penalty kill was terrible, like, at all. Disappointing that one goes in off Martinez's stick. I think it's kind of hockey karma for the goalie interference. Is it goalie interference? Yes, it technically is goalie interference. There's a guy laying in the crease. He pushes Thompson back in. You're going to get goalie interference on that. I liked the challenge. I thought it was absolutely worth it. And now looking back, it would have been the 7th penalty if it didn't go the other way. But it was probably worth it, in my opinion. Anytime there's contact in the defensive or in the crease that's not caused by your player, you want to give it a shot. But, like, if it doesn't happen, if Kadri just disappears out of the face of the earth and that does not happen, that's still a goal. So that's why it's almost like the Kismic, what is it, chi or what? I don't know what I'm trying to say at this point. But, like, to me, you're asking for it. They were playing with fire the entire night. Like, another Flame reference. I made that on Twitter. I did it twice. I'm embarrassed now. All in all, though, like, you want more offensively. And I'll pick out a couple of different players after I tell you that this Periscope and all Periscopes and all Twitter spaces this year are brought to you by Conler & Associates CPAs. Conler CPAs are a terrific CPA in town that can take care of all your tax questions. They are experts in gambling tax and crypto tax. Go to conlercpa.com, Conler with a K, Kondler CPA.com. Hopefully you can spell CPA. Tell them SinBin sent you. Makes me look real good, makes them real happy. I'm sure the Conler family is not happy with this experience at all. Huge Golden Knights fans, as are pretty much all of our sponsors. Kuttner's a massive Golden Knights fan. Jimerson's a huge Golden Knights fan. My guy Eric from Giordano's huge Golden Knights fan. Like, we pretty much, the Sports Town folks, no doubt, huge Golden Knights fans over there as well across the board. So, like, we go for the Golden Knights fans. They're probably all not happy today. It starts to me, and so here's this one. We lost because of penalties. I think penalties were a vehicle to them losing. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say no, that didn't happen, that they didn't lose because of the penalties. Because when you give up 6 and you end up giving up 2 goals, and maybe they don't, Thompson's playing well enough that maybe you do sneak through that. But to me, like, okay, sure, that may have been the way that it went down on this particular day. But to me, you lost the game. Like, you weren't the better team when throughout the entire first period, when you're up 2-0, you're not the better team in the second period, whether it's the 9 minutes of 5-on-5 or the 12 on 6 on 5 or 5-on-4, like, you're never the better team in that. Then the third period, you have the opportunity. Here's a chance. Go into the locker room, reset, figure out what you're doing. All you have to do is kill off. It was like 9 seconds of power play there. They come out and they were never better than the Calgary Flames at all the entirety of the third period. That's a problem for me. And this is where I want to start talking about different people. Like, oh boy, the tweet with Eichel caught on with Sabres Twitter, so that's going to be dirty all night. I mean, I'll just start with him. So the game-winning goal, if you watch the video that I tweeted, the puck goes in behind the goal, and he takes a hard step inside of the left circle. I guess it would be the right circle if you're considering looking out from the goalie. It's the left circle when we're watching on TV. That's the last stride that Jack Eichel takes on that play. And the play goes in with his man directly in front of the goal. Now, granted, it's hard to say it's his man because the fact of the matter is it's a zone. But in that particular case, he needs to be aware of what's coming. The two defensemen are looking at the puck underneath the goal. That is what they're supposed to be doing. That is a situation where they have to find a way to make something happen to check that and not allow that to come out and get directly in front of the goal. Now, when you have a guy activating, Eichel has to find a way to get in front of that player. And if you watch him, he's simply gliding around. There's 2 hard strides from Backlund. I'm watching it right now. And he ends up right in front of the goal. And you end up with Cassidy sitting here saying, we weren't good enough in front of the goals. Well, there you go. And then throughout the entirety of the game, and this has been my problem with Eichel, when the offense isn't there, when he's not on top of his game offensively, and that's okay. He doesn't have to be every single night. That's not the biggest deal in the world. He's not going to be. When he's not there, we end up with these. These are the types of things we end up with. And these are the problems that you're going to start to see. He's probably going to be what I loved Cassidy's term, when you are the star of the video session, and he meant it in a horrible way. I think Eichel's going to be the star of the video session tomorrow when they go and look at that, because that's not good enough. And that's the type of play that if you're supposed to be the turnaround player of the year off defensively, which is the plan and what is supposed to happen under Cassidy here, that can't happen. And now, okay, it happened. Now let's see, what response do we get? What does it look like the next time we're in that situation? What does it look like in the first period against a tough line that he's going to have to go up against on Thursday? That's what we'll have to see. But then you flip it to the other side, and you have not enough offense from him, not enough offense from Marchessault, not all that much offense from Karlsson, not all that much offense from Stone, not a ton of offense from Pietrangelo or Theodore. McNabb ends up with the chance. The goal is scored on just an individual effort, flat out, by one guy. It's Brett Howden. So they had 2 goals. One is an individual effort that Brett Howden's busting his ass to get around a player and stick a stick out into the middle of the lane, and he gets his stick on it. Great play. That is tremendous effort from one individual player. That's a good job. That's how you want to score. Now, if I felt like they have 17 other guys, or if we be fair and say it only has to be the forward, and that there's 11 other forwards that are going to be willing and able to go ahead and score that, I'd feel better about that. They don't. They flat out don't. Even Brett Howden has historically not been a guy that has been able to show that he's able to do that. I do think on the line he's on, with the role he's been handed, he knows that's the play I have to make. That's my only chance to make something happen. Let me go out and make something happen and do something like that. Great play. The other one is just a flick from the blue line or whatever, wherever it happened to be, that Markstrom swings and misses on. It's not tipped. It's just flicked towards him. He just whiffs on it. Look like somebody on the Spring Valley Yankees, and we had a hard time catching the ball ever. He catches it pretty often, Markstrom. In this case, he didn't. So, that's not a goal you can rely on at any point. Today, they didn't have a lot of 2-on-1 rushes. They didn't give up many against either, which was nice. They didn't have any breakaways at all that I can remember. They just, when the transition's not there, and it's not going to be as time goes on and as they play against better teams and as teams understand this is how they score, and then as teams start to understand that we can live in their zone a little bit more, that's going to be what the Golden Knights are going to see more of, where they're going to have to generate offense. I didn't see much of anything from below the goal line. I didn't see anything going on really in the offensive zone outside of low to high. And low to high has been what they've done, and it's not successful. We've seen years of it. We've seen playoffs with it. We know it's not going to work. And then the last piece is they're not good in front of the goal. They're not winning the pucks in front of either goal. And that one, I don't see how that's going to change. Zone defense, in my opinion, makes that harder. A lot of the players have told me they think it's easier. I don't see how that's the case. The reason I don't believe them is because they're not going to tell me it's harder. They're just going to say it's easier because they hope it is easier. The reason I say it is because I just don't think it's as easy to get your body in front of a player when he's not the man you're marking. When you're constantly marking a player, he's a lot easier to stick with. You're constantly on him. You're constantly next to him. You're constantly touching him the entire way. When you're playing zone and one guy comes in, you have to pick up him. And now if he skates out, you need to pick up somebody else. I don't think it's as easy to do. I don't think that's been a problem to this point. It really hasn't. They've been better in front of the goal defensively so far this season. They also played 3 physically weak teams, at least 2 physically weak teams, and then LA. And really, LA, they lost a net front battle, and Artur Kaliev scores it. So it's like, what are we going to get over the course of a season? And then we've gotten good goaltending. We've gotten halfway decent defending. I don't think today was all that good. We've gotten pretty good, at least to the degree, power play up until tonight. And we're sitting here looking at a game where they are unable to play against a team that's good. That's a legitimate cup contending team. Like, they just weren't good enough. And that's the issue. The one piece that I did see defensively, by the way, if you want to start putting questions in there, go ahead and start putting questions in the comments. If you're watching on Twitter, when Periscope died, they no longer allow comments to come through Twitter. So you need to go on to YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search SinBin.vegas, and we will pop right up. I'm not even sure you have to put the Vegas in. If you just put SinBin, I have a belief we might even pop up. And it's better for me if you watch it on YouTube. We prefer you watch it on YouTube because we have better analytics on YouTube, and we get higher up on the list on YouTube, and it looks better when you subscribe to our YouTube. So please do that. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in on the YouTube or Facebook comments. Defensively, the piece I didn't like in this particular game was I felt like when the puck was either below the goal or on the half wall and they had any bit of time, which it wasn't terrible. They weren't this didn't happen a lot. But when there was some time, you could always see they would use 2 layers, they being Calgary. There's one layer of a player going to the goal. That drove both defensemen back to the goal. And then they used a second layer to get a player down into the slot. And the Golden Knights centers were not good enough at defending that. And when that's happening, you're going to be in trouble if that continues to happen. Thompson made a couple of great saves. A couple of them got blocked. They were giving up grade A+ chances in that situation every single time there was enough time and space for a player to hold the puck either on the red line, on the goal line, below it, or just a little bit above it when they're on that half wall. Didn't matter the side, didn't matter really the player that had it. It was a problem. And it's something that I think is going to show up on tape a lot. Because as much as I like the Golden Knights defensive centers, and I do to a degree, I don't love them in zone coverage in the defensive zone. Like, I liked a lot more utilizing the skating, winning, numbers advantages, and creating plays where you hound the puck and get it the hell out of there. I'm not sure you're going to get great in-zone coverage from Eichel. I'm not sure you're going to get great in-zone coverage from Stevenson. I think you will from Karlsson. Sometimes he kind of turns off. And when that happens, you're going to have these situations. I thought just as a whole wasn't good enough defending in those situations. Again, it's the first time they played a deep team. It's the first time they've had a real situation where they have to deal with kind of line matching and how that's going to work and getting bad matchups constantly out there. When that's in the case, when that was the case today, they weren't good enough. Not that big a deal to me. I'm just pointing it out for today. I think it probably can get cleaned up over the course of the season. I think by the end of the season, it will absolutely be cleaned up. I have full faith that Cassidy's going to be able to make that happen. Here we go. Some questions. What are your thoughts on Martinez so far this season? Not good. He just hasn't been good enough. Like, he's not all that involved in the offense as he was a little bit under DeBoer. Certainly before the injury last year, he was a lot more involved in the offense. Now I don't see him as involved. And defensively, he's kind of been at fault for a number of the different issues that have come up. Now, in the game-winning goal, I'm watching it right on the screen here. I don't have a huge problem with it. He's doing the right thing. He tries to make a stick check on the back door. It's there. He's in the right position. He's doing the right thing. He's working hard. I don't have a huge problem with that. It ends up just being an L, but I think that you could use help from your center there. And I think a hard-working center, I think if Karlsson's on the ice in that particular situation, he's busting his butt to get in front of Backlund there and at least challenge that instead of making it an easy tap-in. That's what ends up happening. It's unfortunate. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But to the most part, the simplest answer I can give you is I don't think he's been good enough, and I think they should have been better. I think they should be better. This is definitely true. McNabb's been excellent. McNabb's probably been the most consistent defensive player on the team. I know that there was a little bit of a highlight of Shea Theodore today. I'm not sure why that was chosen to be done today, as he was not good today. And for the most part, I actually think he's been bad defensively throughout most of this. I don't see him making a huge impact outside of when the game was going really well against Seattle. I'm not seeing a lot so far from him, so I'm not as excited about him as what we've seen. But as far as McNabb, his partner, he's been tremendous. He's doing everything he needs to do, and that's the piece that you have to like what Cassidy's going to bring with a player like McNabb. He's going to be better under Bruce Cassidy than he was under Gallant or under DeBoer. Why don't we see VG Clay play a more physical game? So here's why I think that. I don't think they have a lot like hitters and guys that are going to be banging around on the forecheck and that type. They're a more skilled big team. Like, they have good sticks. They have good enough skating that they can put themselves in good positions. They're able to do things with their minds and with their sticks that allow them to not have to bang into players as often. I don't have a problem with it. Now, there are times that I think if we do get into a playoff series with a smaller team, they're probably going to want to unleash it a little bit more. And as we start to play, like, I'm interested to see what does it look like against Winnipeg, Toronto, Colorado. I'd love to see what it looks like against Edmonton, these types of teams. When you get these fast skating, skilled teams that are able to roll multiple lines of skill at you, are you going to have to push them out of the way to slow them down? So far, I don't think they needed to do that against the teams like Chicago and like Seattle. You can kind of just play that long stick check style of game. In this case, today, they were in many ways out physicaled, and that does become a question of when that high IQ stick check style of game isn't working and isn't making a huge impact. And then you do come up against a team that is as big as you and strong as you. Are you able to match it? And that's going to have to be a hallmark of this team. It really wasn't there for me as a whole. I just don't think so. This is an interesting point, which is that they are injury prone. And do you want a team that's injury prone to be all that physical? We've now seemingly made it through 4 games without an injury, and that is going to be crucial to this team making the playoffs. If you take a top 6 player out of the team right now, any of the top 6 forwards out of this team, and maybe you can make an argument for now McNabb, if you take any of those guys out, I don't think they have the depth to make up for it. And Cotter in this game wasn't really all that noticeable. So that's probably going to happen as we get further on and as we see more and more of that. So how's that going to go? Is Amadio going to help when they need that extra player? And then when are they going to get something or more out of Kessel? I don't think it's ever going to come. I've said it before. I'll continue saying it until he makes me change my mind. And I would like to see more passes like we saw in Seattle. But when it's 4-0 and the pass is a wide open time and space play from underneath the goal that no one's defending at all, and you hit a pass and then the goalie doesn't even move on the shot, I'm not going to go overboard about that particular play. So for me, that's kind of how I look at that. Howden was good. I think Howden's been pretty good today. I think that line is going to run into problems because I'm just not sure that you're going to be able to play against high-end players consistently with Stone not being able to skate all that well. Never has. I think he can still do things, but he's not going to be able to outskate somebody. You're not going to be able to get through a good line when you're having one guy who doesn't skate all that well and one guy who doesn't really even want to touch the puck, and they don't even want to give him the puck. And then your defensemen are not generating much offense. They have 1 goal in 4 games from defensemen. That was never the case at all. So we'll see how that ends up going forward. That's all I've got for today. Again, thanks to Conler & Associates CPAs for sponsoring all the Periscopes. These will be done pretty much every away game. I don't think it'll be all of them because sometimes games are stupid and boring, but anytime there's a legitimate good away game, and then we'll be on Twitter Spaces a lot of the home games. It's a really good setup for me to sit in the car and do one of those. So I'm definitely excited to be able to do that. And I love hearing you guys talk and kind of getting you guys involved a little bit more. It's better than just me yapping the entire time. Tomorrow, goalie interference is back. I almost put in a credential to the Horsey game. That would have been really bad if I had done that and forgot about goalie interference. And I'm doing it from the Horsey game. That would have not been tremendous. So goalie interference tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Please make sure you join us for that. I'm very interested to see what Mike has to say about this game and the others since we've had it. Thanks again. And yeah, as always, see you in the Discord. If you're not in our Discord, you should be. Sign up for our text service, winnow.app/SinBin, winno.app/SinBin. Our Discord might be the most underrated part of that. I think the text service is great, but the Discord is fantastic. It's a lot of fun to watch games with that Discord up. There's a lot going on. You learn a lot about the game. We have knowledgeable people in there. There were over 600 messages in there on today's games thread. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to watch a game. I highly recommend that you get on there. Just DM me if it doesn't make sense or you have more questions about it. We'll hit you up on there. Thanks again to Conler Associates CPAs. Make sure you go there, conlercpa.com. If you have any tax-related questions, they are fantastic. Don't wait. It's much easier to do it early. Tell them SinBin sent you, and it will be great. That is it. Good.